Hello. Hello, everyone. We are Rocio and Warmi, and this is our presentation for contrastive grammar. Our topic is systemic functional approach. First, I'm going to develop history of systemics. Systemic functional linguistics grew out of the work of J.R. Firth, a British linguistic in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, but this linguistic was mainly developed by Halliday, who studied under J.R. Firth, and Halliday developed a theory in the early 60s. And then he moved to Australia in the 70s and established a department of linguistics at the University of Sydney. Through his teaching in the university, SFL has spread to a number of institutions throughout Australia and around the world. The Australian systemics or Australian genre theory developed by Jean Martin, Joe Rothery, Frank Christie, and others is especially influential in areas of language education. SFL teaching and research also continue in the UK with the first generation of main proponents, including Margaret Berry, Dick Hudson, Chris Butler, Robin Fawcett, and others. And a second generation has evolved, including Geoff Thompson in Liverpool, Tom Bartlett in Cardiff. And Christian Matthiesen has become one of the leading figures in the field and is known in Hong Kong.
Well, now we are going to develop about the theory specifically. Systemic functional linguistics is a theory of language centered around the notion of language function instead of a more structural approach which emphasizes the elements of language and the combinations. When people talk about language functions, they refer to the reasons of using language. Jacobson proposed 6 functions of language: the phatic function, which deals with the connection between speakers; the poetic function, which focuses on in the beauty of the language itself, the richness of sound and texture, and the balance that makes it a work of auditory art and poetic utterance. The metalingual function is used whenever the addresser and the addressee need to check whether they use the same code. The emotive function comes out when we want to express our emotions. For example, the interjections, which are words or phrases used to express sudden surprise, pleasure, or annoyance. The conative function helps us to make people do something. It includes orders. And the referential function, which corresponds to the factor of context and describes a situation, object, or mental state. So we can say that the systemic functional linguistics starts at social context and looks at how the language both acts upon and is constrained by this social context. Then a central notion of this approach is stratification, such that language is analyzed in terms of 4 stratas: context, semantics, lexicography, phonology, and graphology. Context concerned with field, tenor, and mode. Field is what is going on. Tenor is the social roles and relationship between the participants. Mode is the aspect of the channel of communication. Semantics systemic semantics include what is usually called pragmatics, and it is divided into three components. Ideational semantics, that is the propositional content, interpersonal semantics, which is concerned with the speech functions, exchange structure, expressions of attitude, etc., and textual semantics, that is how the text is structured as a message, such a theme structure, given new rhetorical structure, etc. The lexical grammar concerns the syntactic organization of words into utterances. And finally, phonology and graphology, which is concerned with the smallest units of language, that is, sounds or letters.
Okay, formalism. One of systemic functional linguistic, one of the main characteristics is formalism, is the use of systemic networks, an inheritance network used to represent the choices present in making an utterance. The choices in this network are called features. For example, a simplified lexico-grammatical network. The choices of stratum are constrained by those on others. Thus, the decision to use nominal group, for example, a noun phrase, rather than a clause to express a semantic process will be determined by both textual structure of the text as a whole, but also by social context. That is to say that nominalization is more functional in a science text, for example, than in casual conversation.
Feature is also associated with the structural consequences of that choice. For instance, if we choose the feature finite, a subject and a finite element are required. A subject is filled by a nominal group and a finite by a finite verb. So further selections in the closed network will constrain the fillers of these roles and specify the presence, fillers, and ordering these elements. Okay, that was all. Thanks for watching.